Hey, I'm Chris and welcome back. In last week's video, I shared with you how I bought 3 Crown Vics at a state auction here in Delaware. Well, these 3 new Vics, along with my daily driver Vic I bought back in April, leaves my driveway looking like a crime scene. So I recently started listing these cars for sale, and in this video I wanted to share with you what I'm finding to be a very good no-cost way of selling a car. Also, I wanted to tell you about something interesting I found at the Division of Motor Vehicle when registering these cars. And lastly, I gotta share with you this story about a drug testing mystery that's finally been solved after 15 years. What? Drug testing? Yeah, drug testing, and it's directly related to getting these cars registered. So stick around for that one. So after getting these cars home, I got them washed and cleaned up, and clearly my wife was none too pleased with having a used car lot in our driveway. So I drafted an ad, took some pictures, and made a listing on Craigslist. I figured a fair retail price for these cars was $2,500, so in my Craigslist ad I posted these cars at $1,950 with the idea of moving them out quickly. Well, after a few days of that Craigslist ad, it only generated one person who was interested, and he was living in Nigeria, and his uncle left him a lot of money, and he wanted to buy some cars. So clearly that wasn't working. On Saturday morning, I'm on Facebook, and I did a search on used cars for sale, and I came across a Facebook page that's called Delaware Used Cars. It had 17,500 members of folks just like me doing this same thing. Also on Facebook, for the first time, I saw a listing called Marketplace. So on Facebook, on the left menu is the Marketplace option. Once clicked, there are some filter options as well as various categories. Basically, Marketplace is simply a better version of Craigslist, and what makes it better is the authenticity of the ad, as you can view the Facebook profile of the sellers. So right after lunch, I made a posting on Facebook, both on Marketplace and Delaware Used Cars, listing these cars for sale for $1,950, and by dinner time that same day, I had 15 folks genuinely interested in buying these cars. On Sunday, I had another 6. On Monday, I did a showing, and the guy seemed serious about buying the car, and on Tuesday, today, I've got another showing tonight for a car. So between those 2 postings, I generated more interest in a shorter time than I've gotten in any other way of selling a car. So don't overlook Facebook and social media when you have something to sell. So before I can sell any of these 3 new cars, I have to get them titled in my name. And obviously, since I'm planning on selling these cars, I want to reduce as much as possible the cost of that titling process. So I called my Department of Motor Vehicle, explained my situation to them and what I'm trying to do. And well, it took a few different people before I got the right person to share with me something that they call a U title. Just like the letter U. The U title allows me to title these cars in my name, but without the hassle of taking the cars through the inspection process, as well as avoiding the $40 annual registration fee for each of these cars. Now, the way she explained this to me is that a U title does not get me a license plate, so none of these cars are legally able to be driven on the street. However, if my goal is to simply sell them, that U title is a nice money saver. Also, after that phone call with the DMV, I realized in the past, whenever I picked up a project car, it would take weeks or months to get that car ready to go through inspection. And once it was ready, I would go through inspection, pay the licensing and registration and titling fees. And I was always hit with late fees and penalties because of the titling process occurring 30 days after the time I bought the car. Well, that U title is another nice money saver in that I get to avoid the late fees and the penalties associated with future project cars too. Alright, so this is where the drug testing story comes in. You see, up to just a few years ago, I used to be a human resources manager at a bank near here. And I was responsible for a bunch of things, including the employee health and welfare benefits and work comp, FMLA, and random drug testing. Now, with 4,400 employees at the bank, it was a weekly occurrence where I was getting brought in and involved in some kind of wild and outlandish HR issue. There was times when, for instance, an employee left a turd on the steps of the interior of the building, or when an employee accidentally ate a cockroach and I had to file a work comp claim for the ER visit. Well, I vividly remember 15 years ago, the time when I was performing monthly random drug testing, and I collected samples from 15 randomly selected employees and packed those samples in a Tupperware bin and sent them out to the lab. Well, the following day, the lab technician calls me and says one of the samples had melted and made a huge mess in the Tupperware bin, tampering and messing with all the other samples. Well, I brought the employee down the next day, told him what had happened, and he was ready to get fired. But I let him know that I had built into the policy a second chance provision, and that provision could be activated for certain things like tampering. So I gave him an opportunity to retest.
So I collected that second sample from him, set it into the lab, and the following day, the sample came back negative. Yeah, big surprise. I let the employee know it was negative. He thought I was joshing with him, pulling his leg, joking with him, but I told him it was real, it was true, and go back to work. So he's still back, he goes back to work, spends about 6 more months with the bank before quitting and moving on to something else. Well, imagine my surprise when I go to the DMV this past Friday to get my U titles, and waiting at the counter to help me is my drug testing guy. That's right. So we have a good laugh about it. We remember some of those times when we did the testing and so forth. And I had to ask him, what in the world did he put in the cup to make the cup melt? Now, it took him a few moments and he realized bleach. He put bleach in there. He said he read somewhere on the internet that you put a few drops of bleach in your urine sample and it's supposed to dilute it enough to fool a drug test. Well, clearly he didn't use just a few drops. He used a little more. But regardless, it was a good story and it was a funny memory that I wanted to share with you, all tied to getting these cars titled. So that's my update on the VIX, the titling process, and my drug testing story. Now I've got a really good sense that 2 of these cars, they're going to move out in the coming days, leaving me 2 remaining. But I'm also starting to rethink what I want to do. Do I want to sell all 4 of these cars or not? And I'm anxious to share my ideas and my thoughts with you in the upcoming video next week. So be sure to check in for that update. Or better yet, click that bell icon next to the subscribe button. That way you'll get notified whenever that new video gets uploaded. So I appreciate your time and thanks for watching.